Okay, everybody, can I have your attention back up here? I am going to pick on this side of the room first. I'll start right here with this group. Do you have a spokesperson you would like to have chat with me? Okay, let's start with number one. What's one input on facilities that you would require? A question or two that you want to ask around that?
Like how to accommodate the visits and what actually a visit looks like.
Okay. So can you give me more detail on that one?
Like, is a visit somebody just walking into the facility, or do they have to actually talk to a staff person there?
Okay.
Or entered into a system or something like?
Good questions. Do you
And
have
like
one for number, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, for accommodating, it was like, do you need a wheelchair ramp? Like that accommodates people that are wheelchair users, but what about people who are autistic that can't handle noise or bright lights? So,
Okay.
like, what accessibility are they looking for exactly?
Okay. That is also a good one.
Or if people are blind, like, do you need to have braille material available?
Okay. And is this still under facility?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess, yeah.
And why do you care about accessibility? Because it's going to translate into real dollars. If you have to put additional accommodation technology or ramps or something, right? You need to know about that.
Yeah,
Okay,
you want to know who your people are so
Exactly.
that you can meet their need.
Did you have any for clients to be served?
Yeah.
What's a question or what's an input there? And what do you need to know? What do you need to know
Well, this is when I
before
write
you
a
can
document
serve the
myself.
clients?
But self-disclosure,
Like what that means? you
yeah,
mean?
what that means,
Okay.
and like what disabilities it would entail. Like, is it just physical? Is it just mental health? Is it PDD? Like, does it include all of those?
Okay.
And then there was one where it said 40 documented disabilities. So who's doing the documenting and deciding that the person has a formal disability, or formal wasn't the word.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that. I missed part
Well,
of
there was
that.
somewhere it talked about a documented disability. So
Okay.
who's doing the documenting
Okay.
and where are referrals coming from?
Right. That's a big one. You don't know, right? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now I'm going to skip over to this side of the room. To this group at the end here, do you have inputs for marketing of services? Like, how are people going to know about these? What's your input, and do you have questions?
The question we had was, are they coming in through some referral services, for instance, like Alberta Supports,
Okay.
or not? Or do we
Okay.
have to actually advertise it on buses and different locations all
Right.
throughout?
Which is going to mean to your agencies what?
Money.
More
Money.
money,
More
right?
money.
You want to know if you have to spend
Well,
money.
not
on
just
that.
money to do, but money for expertise concerning that and measurement of
yeah.
successes, right? So channel marketing money, which
Okay,
is expensive.
that's a very good point. Any other ones on that one for marketing? And by marketing, really, I was just meaning how are people going to find out, or how do they know to come to you?
The other one that I had for that marketing was some sort which is channel evaluation, which is some kind of follow-up to say if you're getting the bang for the buck, if it's working or not.
Okay,
Yeah, so some kind of a survey capability, which costs money again.
all right.
And for
And
more,
that survey capability to know if people are actually getting to you?
Yeah. And are being served ultimately, but yeah.
Okay. To measure that.
and if we're building in a marketing cost, is there funding for translation into plain language, braille,
Right.
etc.?
Okay. Well, and what about other languages too, right? Are you
Other
expected to
languages?
serve? Yeah.
And we could throw it under there, even though it's facility, but we also talked about the fact you're going to even need something that's like a, there's no other term for it, but the customer relationship management system, and quite
Right.
a robust one.
Okay.
Be able to gauge that funnel, because you're dealing with a true funnel here.
Okay. So what do you want to know about the client relationship management
Pardon me?
piece for? Why is that important to you?
Well, you want to know if your inputs are matching your outputs and the degree to which you're successful in achieving all those numbers. And is it growing or not growing? That's no way to do it. And ultimately, what's your retention?
Okay.
Quality assurance.
So you want to see if it's growing, if you're helping. Okay, great. Anything else we missed? Did I ask you about client eligibility and referrals? I guess we did. Any other questions your group wants to add there? No? Okay. So I'm going to go to the group next to you over there, and I'm so far away I can't even read your name tags. Lucky for you. Tanya, Clary, that group. Okay, what about deliverables you'd be expected to give? Actually, sorry, I should go around. I should ask you if you had any other ones you wanted to add to any of these categories. Ask you that.
Well,
first.
we actually really just kind of got stuck on our inputs, and we
Okay.
were just really talking about all the questions that we would need to ask and all the information. So, you know, the one that I had thrown out there was that we must be able to serve 40 additional adults who have not yet been deemed eligible for service. Like,
Right.
what exactly does that mean? And where are we getting our funding from? Like, why would we do that?
I laughed at that one because when I read this, which is actually a real one that's closing today too, that's exactly what
Yeah.
I thought too, right? Why would you serve them, or what funding is attached to them?
Exactly.
How can they be funded, right? If they haven't-
Exactly.
And these are all things you would have to ask. And maybe are they at a certain stage of approval, or what's
Exactly. yeah.
happening there?
And then under facility, you know, like a fully equipped resource center, like we really wanted to understand what that meant as well
Okay.
and how we could break that down.
The fully equipped part?
Yeah,
Because that's also gonna cost money, right?
absolutely.
Okay, those are excellent questions. Any other questions from that group you want to share? Anything the other groups didn't get? And then I'm going to go over here to Darren's group. So any questions you guys got? I know there were a bunch of overachievers there. So I wanted to ask you.
It took all our answers.
But one of the things we talked about, does this have to be in a certain size of city, right? Like what size
Ah,
does the
yes.
population have to be to, you know, bid on this? Because you're in a smaller center, you might not
Right.
have that, right?
Yeah, it would be hard in some smaller places.
So where
right?
does it have to be located, or what size?
Yeah.
Well, and maybe even where in a city would it have to be located, really? Like a certain neighborhood, certain... Okay, that's a good one. What else? On any of them. You can speak to any of them.
And self-disclosure, what do they mean by that? Like
Yeah.
what's,
That's pretty vague, isn't it?
yeah.
Anything else?
I think I'd want to know under facility what licensing requirements you would have to adhere to.
No, it's a good one.
Okay.
We want to know what facility maintenance costs they're prepared to pay for a large parking lot plus a building.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's a
Isn't
heated,
that a good
it has to be
point,
heated
too?
parking lot and ramp and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another huge cost, right, for you to be absorbing. Yeah, and I can guarantee you that a lot of the people who've asked for that are not gonna know how much it costs to operate a parking lot.
I had a bonehead question because I looked
I'm
at the
sure
40
it's not.
service, specialized service, same as like, what are you talking about? What specialized services, right? So do I have to take care of broken
Yeah.
mountain bikers, or do I have to take care of people that actually have, you know, disabilities?
Yeah, you
The
don't know.
question was though, is that 40 over 2 years, or is that 40 per day?
Again, not clear.
Yeah, like it's not really.
And how long is the contract? Is it a 1 year?
It's a 20, let's say.
It's a
24,
2 years.
24, yeah.
So I assume 2 years, but 40 over 2 years is not very much.
Well, how
I
do you get
know.
a facility like that for 2 years?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah, good point.
So 40 per over 2 years is nothing.
Yeah.
Well, that's what.
I wouldn't be bidding
The
on it.
numbers seemed crazy
Yeah.
from the number of daily visits. What was it, in the tens of thousands? What was it, 20?
12,000,
12,000?
500 over 2 years.
Yeah, I thought that was
That's 500 a
really,
month.
really high.
Starting at 500 a month and then drilling down to.
Yeah.
This is an actual one?
This closes today. We better get down there.
12,500 individuals.
I know, and that's confusing, like, that's confusing, right?
Yeah, the top of the funnel, right? They come in here and they start
It's
pushing
just
down.
hard.
Well, you can't do it one year.
It seems like there's a lot of information, but really, it's not very clear. These are huge client volumes, like if you compare 12,000 to 40, those seem way out of whack, don't they?
Yeah, but 40 was specialized services,
Yeah.
but my concern was 40 over 2 years. Like that's
Yeah,
what,
I
2
know.
a year?
Doesn't make that much
Or for,
sense,
like,
does it?
10
You should be able to squeeze that in, Peter.
I think you can squeeze that in somewhere. Maybe not
I
well.
think I'd ask about facility costs too.
Kate?
I would ask if they're covering the cost of the facility, particularly because it's only 2 years, right?
Yeah, and that's a huge risk as a business, right? That's a massive, either capital or, like, commercial landlords aren't that friendly. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I said that facetiously. I'm sure you're all much more familiar with that.
And so the 1.5 million, is that all encompassing, or is that just per
Another
individual
excellent
that you can break it down
question.
to? Because there's just no way you can do the facility.
And under
I don't
facilities.
understand.
And you know what's so interesting about that comment is that's another clarifying point. Dollars to donuts, that question and the parking lot question alone, when you send them back, or guess what, is going to start another flurry of activity amongst the people who wrote it going, oh my gosh, we never even thought about that.
So, you know, with
Right?
the specialized service, because you don't know what's coming in, you have no idea.
Exactly, you have no
So-
control over the
So we
volume,
were talking
right?
about who's gonna pay, is there surveillance services?
Totally.
And do
Oh,
I have,
yeah,
to-
that's
do I
a
have a
good
specially trained security guard on staff just in case? Just like what happens in WCB.
Yeah,
You just
well,
don't know.
no, and that's very real. And what's the risk there? You just hit the nail on the head for a massive, massive risk for government.
Lawsuit.
Yes, and what's government's biggest
Yeah.
exposure? Front page of the Journal,
Yeah.
right?
Someone goes postal.
Or
on
the
you.
Sun, or the Herald.
Yeah, but if
They
you
don't
sign
wanna
this
be in that
contract,
part.
aren't they able to push that down, that responsibility onto you?
Do you think the government's still gonna get sued if it's on the front
Well,
page
they
of the
will,
Journal?
yeah.
They will.
Yeah, but I mean.
It's the embarrassment
The front page
factor.
would be the service provider. is what
True.
happened at theirs.
But who's always gonna get dragged in? Government does
They'll
not
deflect.
wanna be associated, right? What? What was that?
And pivot.
But really, that's the biggest risk to government, right? And also, if it's not being able to seem to do its job, like, oh, we didn't think about security, that's bad. You know that worker security is a huge issue still, right? So that's a huge, huge risk. So the more you can talk about what your risk mitigation plan is going to be around that in this particular one, right, you're going to look really good. Okay, awesome. Okay, let's move on to the next one so I can let you out for lunch soon. Okay, I'm going to start over here again with the 5 deliverables you'd be expecting you would have to deliver by the end. What do you think? Deliverables? Give me 2. Give me 1. Give me something.
That you'll serve over 150 client.
Say that again?
clients. That you'll serve over 150, that you'll serve 150 job placement clients over 24 months.
Okay. And you know what? It can even be more generic. You don't have to come up with the types of things.
Offer workshops.
Okay. Do we know how many? Did they ask you how many?
No.
Okay, that's going to be another question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move around to the next group on the corner there. What were the deliverables you thought of?
Do you need numbers, like a percentage of people will have job-ready resumes?
Do we know that?
You don't know
No.
that.
We don't. But you're assuming, right? You're forced to assume, and again, this is getting you to think about questions you're going to have to. So, sorry, you said percentage of people trained or percentage of people with resumes?
Yeah, with resumes that are ready to, job-ready, or whatever you want to call them.
Okay, that's a good one. And I'm just putting a question mark between after each one where you don't know. Any other deliverable from your group? What's government going to be reporting on, wanting you to report on? Maybe number of referrals of folks? Because don't you have to refer some to them too? They'll want you to do some kind of tracking, right? Okay, let's go over to that corner. Anything to add to the deliverables? And again, it can just be numbers of types of different things.
We have the 12,500 accommodate a visit, so there's a number they can.
Say that again, the 12,000?
12,500 individual visits,
Okay, yep.
so those are statistics that they would.
Yeah, you'd have to record those, right?
Well, it does, actually, you don't have to. It says accommodate approximately.
So you don't know.
You don't really have to.
You don't know. It's not clear. They're probably going to want to know.
Oh, sure, they're gonna see some tracking, but you're not gonna be.
Do you think they would be interested in possibly how many staff you've given jobs to, or how many staff
Staff, your own staff?
Our
Yeah.
clients.
They might. They might want
Just
to
to
track.
say we employed this many people.
Yeah. What about the employers part? Do they want to know the types and numbers of employers you're referring to? Are they all ending up being dishwashers, or like are
That's an
some people?
assumption, because it's not stated,
You don't know,
we
right?
don't know.
But I think they do want to know numbers associated with those linkages to the community, be it community access advocates, other resources, employers, et cetera, just numbers in that regard.
Yeah, really, you could just say that so many people were,
You sent them all.
introduced to so many employers. That's
Yeah,
it.
you could do.
They all ended up as telemarketers,
Or they didn't.
delivering
You introduced
flyers.
them. There's
That's
nothing here saying
true.
You have to give a job.
There's no talk about what the measurement piece is, right? That's a huge, huge piece. No talk about the measurement. No mention of measurement.
Is it at all possible that this was written in this way because the organizations who are already delivering this type of service already understand what needs to be delivered? And in a way, this is a screening tool, so is that a possibility?
There's always every possibility. I would argue, I would go more towards your point as well.
Yeah.
They have a
They're
problem.
learning.
These are their folks. They need to get them trained, but they really don't know. Because how much information don't we know? It's very unclear, right? It's funny because it seems like a lot of information is here, but it's really, how many questions have you come up with easily, right? So it's not very good at explaining. And this one's scary because how's the government going to measure it, know if they got what they paid for? How are they going to know if clients actually got jobs? They're not going to know.
I'm not even asking for that.
Yeah. And that's a huge, and where does that go
We're
to?
asking for 150 job placement clients.
When they have to fill out their reports at the end of the year, can they tell whether they even got close to any kind of outcome, let alone an individual outcome, but a macro outcome? They will have no idea if they don't have a measuring stick.
Well, they are asking for 150 job placements over 24 months with a minimum of 15 hours per week.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
They are asking
specialized
for that.
service was minimum 9 hours.
Okay.
Part-time.
Yeah, so there's
So
some
again,
stuff in there.
you're
Sure.
measuring the funnel, you're measuring your customer
Have
relationship
they
outcomes.
asked you to measure it anywhere in any type of system in this RFP though?
They say must. When they say must, to me, that's a must,
Able to
Right.
demonstrate.
right? That's a must.
So we're again assuming that you would have to have some kind of measurement system. So what are you going to write in your proposal? Say you really want this one. You're going to talk about how great you are at measuring stuff, right? Because they've got so little there. You're going to be a shining star if you talk about your measurement skills, your electronic systems, your...
That type of system, other than customer relationship management systems, provides some of that stuff. You're still going to have to customize the thing.
For
and
sure.
It's going to be really expensive, so you
for
need
sure,
that.
your IT costs on this are going to be expensive.
But that's a business decision. The government doesn't care
True.
about
They
your
don't-
internal stuff.
and they
It's
don't
your
care how
business
you do it
decision if you
either,
can
right?
facilitate what they're asking you to facilitate. And that it means including, are you able to do the tracking that you need to do? They don't care how you do it,
Yeah.
but
They are saying that you use the program Mobius, so I think that is that's a direct
there you go.
cost related to
Exactly.
IT, that if you don't have Mobius set up.
And
then
exactly.
So again, what's the assumption? You have to have an IT system that interacts with Mobius. And you're gonna have to ask a bunch of questions around that, because what else is that gonna need?
And I like the bullet they had
You're
here.
gonna have to produce some kind of reporting for them, right? Or you're gonna have to link in with Mobius regularly, or how is that gonna work? How's the Mobius piece gonna work?
How often do
What else were you gonna say, sorry?
Oh, I like the punchline that they had at the end, their facility, which incorporates everything. Fully equipped resource center.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, fun.
Do you want to know the best
I am
part
gonna
about
have
it?
a car
I mean, I
wash.
read the RFP.
Was there anything supplementary to this?
No, you know, I'm
Yeah,
being
or is
facetious,
this-
Look how thick
yeah.
this is.
Oh,
Like, it's
okay.
like,
But
open
you
the
want to know
doors.
the funny thing about reading this is
Yeah.
it got more confusing, not less. Because this is the other risk in an RFP and why you have to ask questions. If they put information in multiple parts, I already found conflicting information in this. So those are not more questions, right? It's on you to point out their confusion to them. But that does a favor as well because it forces them to get better. There was one that I worked on where they allowed you to, on this one, I won't get into the specifics, but you can put in, it's either 2 or 3 different, essentially separate proposals. So you can bid on 1 and 2 or 1, 2, 3 or however it works. But I was working on one like that with somebody, and there were 3 different types of proposals you could put on. It was so confusing. It was posted, and then there were like 35 questions on the first day. Well, no one could understand it. And all the questions that came back also made the writer of the RFP go, oh, I never thought about that. I never thought about that. I never thought about that. They ended up having to cancel it because it was so bad. And again, was that a situation where the person should have maybe put an RFI out first to figure it out? Maybe. There's lots of reasons why there might be a badly written RFP, right? And I'm not going to blame folks because it's hard. And sometimes you're basing it on unknown information. But your job as the service provider is to ask questions. That's one of the biggest favors you can do them, right? Because then they're going to get much better. Do you think this could be improved? Do you think there's a whole bunch of information missing here? Yeah, there is, right? So, and it's going to benefit you too, because if you're bidding on something, like even the client volumes are massive in here, or like the giant question, does this 1.5 million or whatever include X, Y, and Z? You don't know what it includes, right?
Can I point out something?
Yeah,
When I saw
totally.
at the end, fixed fee service basis,
Yeah.
I went, oh, really?
So it's like
Because
a
like how do you,
no
you have
guaranteed
to,
volume,
you have
right?
to have a pricing costing matrix
Yeah.
because of the variables.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair to them, you should see the pricing schedule. I just looked at it and went, oh. I mean, there's a lot more information. I mean, these facts are complicated enough. I didn't want to get you sweating, which is, I'm sure, what the people who bid on this were doing. But it's this is a complicated one, right? Is it too complicated? Maybe. But there's also some obvious gaps in what they've put out. Okay, last one before I let you go for lunch. 2 outcomes that you want to align with in this one. 2 outcomes. You can just shout them out from around the room.
Finding and maintaining employment and increasing employment opportunities.
Right.
Tie that to
And
the
they listed
business
them at the
plan.
front, right? Okay, and for who? Who are you trying to find and maintain employment opportunities for?
For persons with developmental
Right.
disabilities.
Are there any business objectives of the ministry you might, this is kind of a trick question.
That links to their business
Okay,
objectives,
perfect.
3.3 in their business plan.
Okay, links to 2.3. They're going to love
3.3.
that one. Right?
Actually, it's 3.3 in their business plan.
Oh, sorry. Okay, awesome. That's great. Any other ones on a macro level overall?
I think it's, I don't know how else to say it, but it's intelligence gathering for them. It's understanding what's really going on, because they want us to track a whole bunch of stuff to figure out if it's working or not.
So they want to track maybe, how could we say it in more general language, employability of persons with developmental disabilities, or how would you want to say
And
it?
all the elements or attributes associated with that, for sure, yeah. So I think it's information, but useful information they can use to build a better model, I guess.
And what are they going to ultimately use that information for? Maybe this? To keep helping them find and maintain employment opportunities, right? So this could maybe be almost like a sub-outcome. So for improving services, because that's often what the government's gathering info, right? So improving services or policy. Any other bigger outcomes you're trying to influence? What about on a micro level? What do you think it means to these clients having a job?
Well, I would link that to the performance management framework that the government uses in their different pillars. So, to financial independence or
Yeah,
whatever it is
excellent.
that they want to have in their performance management framework.
Totally.
Well-being. Yeah.
Perfect. So is that going to help you as someone that's caring for them and
Oh,
as
yeah.
an individual?
Anytime you can link to that framework, yeah, it's good.
I'm assuming one of those is about integration into the community or something along those lines.
Inclusion, yeah.
Right. Right. So all of those things, right? So you can look at a micro and a macro level. So you're going to be writing to these things, right? We are so good at finding and maintaining employment opportunities. We have done X, Y, and Z. The clients, the people we've served, have such a sense of well-being because we did this for client Joe Smith, and we did this for client Mary Jane, and we did this for client Abdul, right? You can write to that, because that's going to be really important.
Would you put there two things, like you had offered your employment classes on a monthly basis, or is that a deliverable versus?
That's an output.
But you know what? You can suggest deliverables to them if they've missed some big ones. If you have, like, say we've assumed they don't really know what they're doing. If you have a deliverable that they would like, suggest that one, especially if it's no skin off your nose, right? If it's going to not cost you anything, if it's already built into your stuff, that is called a value-added service. And what are they trying to get? Value-added services, right? So they're going to love that. Particularly the government's, one of their main focuses is gathering information, sharing information. That's perfect. Suggest deliverables to them, obvious ones that you see that they haven't mentioned. That's excellent.